welcome to Coast Currents. In the studio today, I'm very happy to have with me Robert Pinoli, Chief Skunk of the Skunk Train in Fort Bragg and Willits.
Hi,
welcome,
Alan.
Robert.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here today.
Our pleasure. So will I be giving your age away if I ask you how long you've been a resident here in Mendocino County?
You probably would, but that's okay.
Oh, so how long have you been
34 years.
Okay, and where were you born?
Actually, I was born in Healdsburg Hospital. That was the closest in proximity, but lived in Anderson Valley and Philo most of my entire life.
Great. So how did you become involved with the Skunk Train?
In 1993, when I started working for the Kyle Railways, they owned the Skunk at the time. And in my first year, I was emptying the septic holding tanks.
Oh, glamorous.
Very glamorous job. And washing the sides of rail cars. And that's what I did for the first summer. I then later that summer was allowed to go on board as a passenger service attendant and assist the brakemen and conductors with their duties and also do the narration during the trip. And in 1996, there were a group of local investors, 11 other folks and myself, that purchased the railroad from then Kyle Railways. And I stayed involved with the day-to-day operations up until about 2001, 2002, when I went to work on some ag-related projects up on the California-Oregon border. Mm-hmm. And then ended up coming back to purchase the railroad with colleagues in late 2003, 2004. And then took over direct control with Mendocino Railway, which is the company that owns and operates the Skunk Train today, and that happened in 2009.
Okay.
Interesting little timeline there.
Right. So trains have always been a passion of yours from an early age?
You know, growing up as a youngster, I certainly always enjoyed trains. I was always fascinated with trains, and like a lot of Northern California kids, it was something that we did every summer. The idea of working for the Skunk, or that never really was in or came across my mind.
How have you personally expanded the operation of the Skunk and introduced new components to it as you've taken over?
You know, I think, well, first thing to say is that, you know, I'm extremely grateful to have been entrusted with a company that now is 127 years old. It has never missed a season of operation. It has operated continuously the entire time. And really, my job and my role is to be its caretaker in time, to leave it a better operation, a better organization for a next generation. And that's what drives me in what I do every day, because I think that we've lost sight of our heritage and the sort of the backbone that built this country, and that was railroads. In this being the start of my 20th season of railroading, you know, we have seen so many changes. And, you know, when you have a company that's 127 years old, some days I feel like I'm 127 years old, but you have to adapt to those changes and to the times. You know, doing the same trips that we've always done just isn't necessarily going to make it. Mm-hmm. Having to be creative and have, you know, a variety of different trips and different trip options so that you appeal to a broader range of folks, and that you also continue to appeal to a younger generation. Right. You know, trains and travel, and that was something that when my parents were growing up, that's, you know, was a way that people traveled. Now it's not that way anymore, and so it's something that, you know, we have to stay on top of. And we've just added a variety of fun trips, you know, stepping outside of what our core trips are and offering, you know, special events, whether it be the Crab and Wine Express or the Wine and Mushroom Train in the fall or something like that.
And isn't there a new exhibition or a new attraction going to be opening shortly?
Yes, the Mendocino Coast Model Railroad has moved from the Botanical Gardens, which is a home that they had occupied for a great number of years, into the old carpenter's shed at the railroad. It was about a 2,000 square foot building that was used back in the day to build and repair wooden railroad cars. And since we don't do that any longer, all of the cars that we operate are built out of steel. It was a giant catch-all for really nothing more than junk, and became a warehouse that was stacked to the rafters of things that we didn't necessarily need, or we needed a good reason to really clean that building out and make better use of it. And what perfect synergy to have this wonderful group of people who are all volunteers. They work tirelessly to build these beautiful sets, to have their home on the railroad's property, and give our guests who visit us the opportunity to go over and see the amazing talent. Because let's face it, when the train is in the station, it's very sexy and there's a lot of appeal. You've got people gathering, provisions being taken on and off the train, and there's a flurry of activity that's happening. When the train leaves the station, well, it's just another building. And this will give visiting guests something to do when the train is out of the station and they may be waiting for the next departure, and so they have some time to spare, so they can go over there and see that wonderful venue space.
Great. And when's that slated to open?
We're hoping that we'll be have it open the start of the summer of this year. And they are working very, very hard to make sure that happens, which is really very exciting.
Great. I read in the past a couple of articles that kind of gave a little bit idea of some future plans for the Skunk Train. Is there anything on the drawing board apart from that you are able to share? Yeah,
absolutely. Over the years, there's certainly no shortage of creativity, no shortage of ideas, and in my 20 years of being at the railroad, there are plans of things that I want to see have happen. I have had plans drawn up and developed to build overnight accommodations out at North Spur. I actually have 2 railroad boxcars, not here, they're being stored elsewhere. Getting them here is part of the challenge. But I have 2 railroad boxcars that have been converted to overnight lodging accommodations, so that you could actually put them on a side track anywhere on the route and spend the night and have all of the comforts of a wilderness travel trailer, if you will.
Right.
So there are just a variety of plans. But again, the one thing that I don't ever lose sight of is that this was built as a working railroad. It's a wonderful resource for our community. It's a huge attraction to our county, and it has to be responsible. So whatever it is that we do, we have to do in a way that is being responsible and that also makes money.
Right. Plus, it's also such a natural, wonderful trip, as you said earlier about the scenery.
Yes.
And talking of Mendocino County and local, is there a discount for local residents?
We do offer a local discount for our residents. We actually, it's half off just about every single trip we offer. So local residents, $49 is the standard fare, Fort Bragg to North Spur for an adult. So locals would pay $24.50, and that's any trip, any day.
Excellent. And can I rent the train?
You could.
I can for special events.
You could.
All right.
We'd be happy to rent the train to you. You can have an event, a party. As few people as guests as you'd like to invite, but as many as up to 450 per departure.
Whoa, wonderful.
So get out the address book and start inviting.
Great. Now, what are some of the obstacles that you face? I know Mother Nature can throw us some curveballs to you.
That is certainly one of the obstacles. And, 40 miles of track between Fort Bragg and Willits, 2 mountain tunnels, 30 bridges, and we actually climb and cut through the coast mountain range at the summit just before we arrive in Willits. And so when you have, it's one thing, we all have our own pieces of property, and they're usually a square or rectangle or what have you. So when your piece of real estate is 40 miles long and only 50 to 100 feet wide, it makes it very challenging. And as a result of that, trees are our biggest challenge, down trees. On any given day during a winter storm, we may have 20 to 30 trees to contend with. On days when we're running trains and it has been very stormy, we'll send crews out in front of the train to make sure that the tracks are clear, that not only are we getting trees out of the way, but rocks and what other debris may have come down.
We should also talk a little bit about the destination North Spur.
Sure.
And because activities and things go on there. So would you like to tell our audience a little bit about what they can expect at North Spur?
Sure. North Spur was originally a logging camp, and it was also home to the Noyo River Apple Company. It historically has been the midpoint of the railroad, midpoint time-wise, not necessarily distance. It's 21.3 miles from Fort Bragg. Mm-hmm. And it was always the spot where the steam locomotives would stop and take on water before beginning their climb up the ridge. And but North Spur right now is the turnaround point. In the late 70s, early 80s, the half-day excursion became very popular. So the trains would go from both Fort Bragg and Willits, meet in the middle, turn around and return to their respective stations. And if you were a passenger that was continuing on, you would transfer trains at North Spur as well with your luggage. But North Spur right now is it's a lunch stop. It's this beautiful redwood grove on the banks of the Noyo River. And during the season, we have a wonderful lunch stop out there. And in the evening time, during the summer months, we do a wonderful barbecue dinner, which I think you've been on.
I have, and I have to say it's very tasty. Very good. And it's the ice cream
the
sundae.
blackberry sundaes.
The blackberry sundaes.
Yes.
Always safe room for those.
Exactly.
Definitely. Great. Now, on the train, people also can have the opportunity to what we call the upgraded, the first class carriage, where they can have wine and hors d'oeuvres and things like that, can't they?
That was a partnership. Well, that car is a story in it to itself.
Right.
In 2010, for the railroad's 125th anniversary, I decided to do something a little different. And the notion of, having an oil painting or something done to hang over, the fireplace or hang up on the wall in the railroad station just wasn't good enough. And so I decided to take a rail car. And by traditional standards, repainting it to what it looks like today is almost something unheard of. But we, with the Arts Council, we had selected 2 artists to paint this rail car. And we wanted it to be a mobile memento of Mendocino County, and that's really the car's name. It is a mobile memento. So that when it's passing through and people are stopped as they're driving by the car, they have an opportunity to see this and say, "What was that?" And but guests who ride in there, it's adults only. It's an upgraded ticket. There's a wine tasting and appetizers that are served.
You also have an open car, don't you? Also?
We do. We actually have 2.
Two, yeah.
So guests can go out there and stand, and there are no obstructions in that car. There was a car that we actually built here where we removed the walls, the seats, the roof, and you are out there in the element.
So, Robert, there's also another service that the Skunk Train provides, because there actually are some residents along the track there that don't necessarily get out to the major areas. So tell the audience.
We deliver groceries.
Okay.
And we'll deliver parcels as well. And, what a kick to be on board the train. And you have no really clue. Well, why is the train stopping here? I mean, we're in the middle of the forest. And, here emerges a cabin, and there's somebody standing trackside waiting to get their box of groceries.
Well, Robert, thank you, and thank the Skunk Train for its involvement in the summer's activities and events. And also, here's to hopefully another 127 years of great
Indeed.
operation of the Skunk Train.
Indeed.
Appreciate you joining us in the studio today.
Thank you so much.
Ride the Skunk Train if you haven't. It's absolutely a fabulous experience, and it's something for the whole family to enjoy. And we'll look forward to seeing you again on Coast Currents very soon.